Well, first for you in this edition, then, it is the second time that France has been in this position in just a month. That's anxiously awaiting the name of its next prime minister after weeks of even more dramatic twists and turns than the last time around. But a lot more is riding on the announcement, arguably, this time. That's because most parties seem to agree that should the new prime minister fail to obtain approval from fractured lawmakers, Emmanuel Macron's only remaining option will be to dissolve parliament again. Well, perhaps in a bid to understand their red lines, or maybe even to warn them of what's to come, the French president invited the heads of all the parties, except for the far right and the far left, to meet at the Élysée Palace this afternoon as that Friday night deadline for naming a new prime minister approaches. For more, France 24's international affairs editor Rochelle Ferguson joins me now on set. Hi, Rochelle.
Hi there.
So these talks that Macron is holding right now as we speak are, of course, critical. Why is that?
Well, you said it there, Erin. The clock really is ticking in terms of finding a new prime minister. Let's take it back to Monday, where we had this shock resignation from, Sébastien Lecornu, who's now the outgoing French prime minister. That shock resignation then taking Emmanuel Macron back to a place that he's been in a few times now, the very difficult task of trying to find a new leader who will then name a cabinet and ultimately get what is a dire political situation in France back on the table. So what's happened today is, as you said, a number of key political parties are meeting with Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace. There are a number of reasons why this meeting is so key. We spoke about the fact that, of course, France needs a prime minister, but there's also what's very important is he needs to stave off elections. I mean, Emmanuel Macron himself has spoken about the mistake that he made in June 2024 when he called those snap elections, saying that ultimately the National Assembly has never been more divided, and what's more, French people have never had so few solutions when it comes to the political landscape. There's also something that's really important, and that's the budget. I said that the clock is ticking. We're expecting a revised budget to be put to a Minister of Councils as soon as possible, because, of course, who says a new budget means the need for time? It could take weeks or months to get a budget that's approved. We heard from Sébastien Lecornu on Wednesday evening speaking about the fact that by December the 31st of this year, that budget will need to have passed through Parliament. I want to just draw attention to, who is present today. So you said it there. Of course, the LFI, La France Insoumise, isn't there. Neither is Marine Le Pen of the Rassemblement National. Those who are there are adversaries, essentially, of Emmanuel Macron. You can see that Edouard Philippe, who's a former prime minister, is there. There's also Gabriel Attal. Both of them have been quite scathing in their criticism on Emmanuel Macron. Attal saying he no longer understands what Emmanuel Macron is doing, and Edouard Philippe talking about the fact that he needs ultimately to resign. So you've got a lonely, isolated, you might say, Macron, who's still trying to show the French people with calling these leaders in today that he has the upper hand, he knows what he's doing, but frankly, it's not certain that everybody's convinced at this stage.
So, Rochelle, given the very high stakes that you just detailed there, who could possibly be given this role of prime minister with any chances of succeeding?
Well, we've been following, obviously, French media really closely today, and the name that keeps coming back, peculiarly enough, is Sébastien Lecornu, the very man that resigned spectacularly on Monday, again, leading back to this political wrangling. Why would Lecornu, why could he possibly be useful to Macron? Well, number one, he's a Macronist, so he's very much in line with the political sway of Macron. He's also somebody who's managed to get this budget somewhere off the ground with a number of people backing it. And for his supporters, he's been at the heart of several negotiations for the past few months. So in terms of what's familiar and who's been leading the dance for the last couple of months, Lecornu could have, some sway there. There's another option in terms of his government. Now, we know that the government that he put forward this time wasn't particularly not everybody was fond of it. But what if he were to put together a government that had some technocrat figures in there? Technocrat figures who don't necessarily have political ambitions for 2027, figures who ultimately wouldn't have a say in all of France's key dossiers, notably immigration, but would just keep very much on the pension reform and also on the budget. So Sébastien Lecornu is one. You also have the LR, notably leader Bruno Retailleau, who said, look, he's not in the race necessarily to be prime minister, but he said he'd be happy for some kind of cohabitation. So that could be another, there could be some kind of leader from the right, although it will be quite difficult to get a leader from the right to go back on France's contested pension reform. I'll just give you very quickly another couple of names. There is Bernard Cazeneuve, a long-time socialist politician who served under François Hollande. And just lastly, somebody that you won't have heard of, or perhaps we haven't heard of much, is Jean-Louis Borloo, who is neither a Macronist, neither particularly on the left. His name has come up a few times, although he was asked about it this morning and said actually he hasn't yet to receive a phone call. So let's see. Lots of people still in the race, Erin, and it's really unclear at this time. We'll be following, though, on France 24.